Hello, ministry entrepreneurs. Welcome to day 17 of the Wisdom series. We're going to be diving in starting now. Verse 1, it says, "Better a dry crust eaten in peace than a house filled with feasting and conflict." Just leave that one right there. Verse 3 says, "Fire tests the purity of silver and gold, but the Lord tests the heart." John Bevere, he has, I don't even know what teaching it was a part of. I don't know if it was with the wilderness or, I'm not exactly sure. I'm so sorry. But he does have a teaching about how there was a time when he was like really, really angry. Like he was like lashing out at his family and it wasn't something that he was used to, like something that was normal. And he went to God in prayer about it. He's like, "Why, God, why am I so angry? Like, why am I angry? That wasn't there before." And God gave him the illustration of fire because he has an engineering background, I believe. But God gave him the visual, the revelation of what happens to gold when it's in the fire. And all the impurities, when it's under fire, all the impurities come to the surface. And so it's not that they were never there. It was just that once the temperature was raised, they appeared. And so when we look at this verse 3 about how fire tests the purity of silver and gold, the Lord tests the heart. It's in that same way. Like sometimes in different seasons, we can see stuff start to poke out, start to come to the surface in our lives, and we're like, whoa, where did that come from? Or I thought I dealt with that a long time ago. And it's important for us to stay in prayer, to be vigilant about those things, because it could be that God is testing what's on the inside of us. And when impurities come to the surface, it's when they're able to be scooped out. But when we're solid and we're not moldable, or they can't be seen, it's easy to just pretend like we're shining, but all these impurities are on the inside. So it's important that to surrender to the way that the Lord tests the heart, in the process of it, to partner and walk with Him so that those impurities don't go back down when things cool down, when the season changes and the fire is not as hot anymore. But we want the impurities to be, like, for God to be able to remove the impurities while the fire is hot, so that we don't revisit those same impurities later.
Come on.
Yeah.
Verse 4, wrongdoers eagerly listen to gossip. Liars pay close attention to slander. We all know the wrongdoers. And the ones that gossip. Sometimes it's in the midst of that we know we're blessed is when someone has something to say. Someone's gossiping about something. But the verb B is liars pay close attention to slanders. A lot of times, and it's a good way to feed if someone indulges in lying. Slander is great, and a lot of times slander isn't true. But
That's real.
it is. But be encouraged that it always truth always finds its way.
Come on.
To the light.
That's good.
And helps create a bridging of the gap with slander and people that would lie. Verse 9 says, "Love prospers when a fault is forgiven, but dwelling on it separates close friends." Verse 10, "A single rebuke does more for a person of understanding than 100 lashes on the back will hurt." I think that that one speaks speaks for itself.
I like verse 14. It says, starting a quarrel is like opening a floodgate, so stop before a dispute breaks out. Now, most times we end up fighting because we want to get our point across. We want to make sure that we're heard. And we're not feeling like we're heard, or we're not feeling like we're understood. And so we fight it. We fight it out until either there's a winner or there's just like a ceasefire, like a white flag, somebody raises it. But it's like there's such wisdom, and there's something about being the one who said we're not going to fight this. Now, I'm not saying don't, healthy confrontation is not good. That's important. But when it's like when you're fighting just to be heard, or just to get your point across, or to win the argument, it's not necessary. Like there's some things that we open up the floodgate to, we open up the door to, that aren't necessary. And we end up getting in these squabbles, and our words, like we've been learning through this whole thing, our words are so important, so potent. We should be using them as tools. And oftentimes when we get in quarrels or fights, quarrel it's a word, but fights, it can be that our intention isn't to speak life. Like when you fight with someone, you're not it's not for life, like you're trying to hurt them. When you look at a fist fight or something, it's not so that you can, have gentle touches. It's like so you can hit and strike. And so when we talk about like having a quarrel, or and it's opening the floodgates, it's like when we get to that point of what was a conversation, what used to be, and it becomes a fight, have to understand that the intention has changed, and it's not safe in that space, because fights are meant to be won or meant to hurt, so if it starts going, it becomes a decision of someone who's able to be objective and stand outside and be like, if we cross this line, someone's got to either win or get hurt. And that person saying, I'm unwilling to let that happen. We're not going to go. If it's going to be a conversation, that's good. But if it's going to be a fight, the parameters of our discussion have changed. And that's not what we want for our relationship or our friendship. And speaking of friendship, it goes into verse 17. A friend is always loyal, and a brother is born to help in time of need. And so when we're watching our words, when we're watching what we're doing, it's because we're safeguarding those relationships. And
That's really good.
a lot of times when we're about to get into a fight, it can be with those who are closest to us, because those spaces of ourselves are so important, so intimate to us, and so we want to defend rather than protect. So just make it our goal in our relationships, just
To add,
like this. Yeah.
to add to that point,
Yes, sir.
it says in verse 27, a truly wise person uses few words. A person with understanding is even
Come on.
tempered. And
Come
so understanding that, to add to what Sarah was saying about sometimes being wise is being even tempered, and understanding that you could win the fight.
You could.
You can even start the fight knowing that it could be appropriate to get your point across. But sometimes understanding and having the intelligence to know, the emotional intelligence, to know that it's not a good idea, or that you should choose to speak on it at a different time. One where things would be resolved rather easily than the hard way.
Yeah.
And so sometimes it's understanding, there's that word again, having understanding
Let's go.
of the situation, and knowing that, sometimes to preserve the relationship, it should be different. And that's not easy,
Yeah.
especially when you're right.
That's real, especially when you're right. Yeah, so it's your decision to lay your weapon down, your words, lay it down. Surrender your right to be right. Surrender your right to win, for the sake of wisdom, for the sake of peace, for the sake of friendship, relationship, whatever it is. Be on the side of wisdom. It's not to say that the other person isn't wise. Sometimes when we're so emotionally charged, it's hard to remember, hard to engage, reason. But so just to the best of your ability, and then plus the power of the Holy Ghost, which you need sometimes for the restraint. Just do what you can to preserve what God's given in relationships and in friendships, and don't. I think it was Proverbs 14, verse 1, where it says, a wise woman builds her house, a foolish one tears it down with her own hands. And we don't want to be people who tear down what we've built, because we can't control what we're saying or how we say it. So, yep, that's it for today. Again, a lot of emphasis on the words that we speak, why we speak them, and being very intentional about doing it. So, we love you, and we shall see you tomorrow.